Okay, good morning class. Today is Monday, November 26, 2012, and the learning objective is how do we convert between fractions and decimals. And decimals and percents. And how do we find the percent of any number? Okay, so again, today's learning objective is how do we convert between fractions and decimals, and decimals and percents, and how do we find the percent of any number? Okay, so we can find the percent of any number. So the do now is going to be simple. We're going to start off with a simple do now. It's going to be a calculation problem. So do now find 5% of 300 by writing the percent as a decimal and then pursuing your calculation. Okay, as usual, do not copy the problem, just do the work in your journals. Okay, this should not take you more than 2 or 3 minutes. Well, okay, you should be finished with your do now, and so I'll just put up the solution to do now. So first we know that 5% means 5 out of 100. Okay, which you can do on your calculator as 5 divided by 100. Okay, which you will get 0.5 Okay, 5 divided by 100 is 0.05. And now you do 5% of 300. You rewrite that as 0.05. The of means multiply, okay? You should put a dot for multiply. 0.05, big dot, 300. Okay, and when we do that, we get that the answer is 15. Okay, the answer is 15. So 5% of 300 is 15. 5% of 300 is 15. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to erase this solution. Please make sure you have it. Make sure you have the solution in your journals. Okay, so time to start taking notes. Please start taking notes. So you can think of the do now as an I do, since I did it. So now let's work on our first we do. We do. Okay, and I'm going to call this number 2, since the do now was technically number 1. So number 2, find 25% of 180, right? 25% of 180. Okay. So first, what I want to do is I want to convert 25% to a decimal. So 25%, can somebody tell me what is 25% as a decimal? What do we mean by percent? Well, 25% as a decimal is 25 over 100. Okay? And I want to show you a trick. You don't have to use your calculator. You don't have to use your calculator. What you can do is you can write 25. Okay? And because you're dividing by 100, and 100 has 2 zeros. See it here? 100 has 2 zeros. Imagine there's an invisible decimal point after the 5. And to divide by 100, you go back 1, 2 decimal places. Okay? And so the decimal point goes to right to the left of the 2. So decimal point moves from the right of 5 to the left of 2. Okay? And we generally write our decimals with a 0. This 0 is what I call a dead 0. Okay? It's a dead 0. It's just holding, it tells us that there are 0 1s. That's all. Tell us that there are 0 1s. 0.25, 0.25, the same thing. And so now, if you want to find 25% of 180, all you got to do is you multiply 0.25 times 180. And that is going to give you 45. Okay. Again, 25% of 180 is 0.25 times 180, which is 45. Okay. Are there any questions? All right. So now, before we go ahead, I want you to I want you to please copy. Please copy the following notes. Okay, so please copy. Copy these notes. To convert a fraction to a decimal, just rewrite the fraction as a division problem and pursue or carry out the division. Okay, and in this case you can use your calculator. Okay, carry out the division. You may use your calculator. Okay, so we want to convert from a fraction to a decimal. And so here is an example. So example. (36 over 40). You can simplify it first, but it's not necessary here. Is equal to 36 divided by 40. Okay, which I know is going to be 0.9. Okay, your calculator might give you 0.9. Alright? And from memory, some of you might realize that this is the same as, you can simplify that and get 9 over 10, which is 0.9, okay? So that's how you convert from a fraction to a decimal. You change the fraction into a division problem, okay? Change the fraction into a division problem. In this case, 36 divided by 40 is derived from the fraction 36 over 40. And your answer is 0.9. Okay. Another thing to note, we want to convert from a fraction to a percent. All right, we want to convert from a fraction to a percent. How do we do that? Okay, let me erase this. So if I want to convert from a fraction to a percent, okay, so to convert from a fraction to a percent. Okay. First step you gotta do is you first convert to a decimal. And 2, multiply the result by 100%. Okay? So here's an example. Convert let me see something that you might not know that easily. Let's say convert $18 over 25 to a percent. Okay, so convert 18 over 25 to a percent. So step one, what I do for step one, $18 divided by 25 is equal to, or 18 over 25 becomes the division problem, 18 divided by 25, which if you do 18 divided by 25, you are going to get 0.72, I believe. Let me check that. 18 divided by 25 is 0.72. Yes, I'm correct. So that's step one. Step two, 0.72 multiplied, I'm going to use a big dot for multiply, by 100%, okay, is just going to give you 72%. Alright? 0.72 multiplied by 100% is just going to give you 72%. I want you to note something here. If I'm multiplying by 100%, if I'm multiplying by 100%, why doesn't the value change? So I say that the thing over here is 0.72. Actually, the thing in step one is actually equal. That these two things are equal. 0.72 is equal to 72%. Why are they equal? Well, yes, you're right. They are equal because when you multiply by 100%, you are just multiplying by 1. 100% is equivalent to 1, and the value doesn't change when you multiply by 1. Okay? Alright, so I'm going to move on to another thing that you need to know. And this is stuff you should have learned from the 6th grade. Okay? Okay? So, let's go the other way around. To convert from a percent to a decimal. Okay, convert from a percent to a decimal. 1, drop the percent symbol. Okay, drop the percent symbol, and 2, converting from percent to a decimal. Drop the percent symbol, and 2 multiply by, convert from a percent to a decimal. You drop the percent symbol, and you are not multiplying this time, you are dividing. Okay, so sorry about that. You drop the percent symbol and you divide. Divide by 100. Okay, so notice the difference. When you're trying to convert from a decimal to a percent, you multiply by 100%. When you're converting from a percent to a decimal, you divide by 100. Okay, so here's an example. Here's an example. Convert %3 to a decimal. Convert 3% to a decimal. Well, obviously, step 1, 3%. Notice here I'm using an arrow. I am not using an equal sign. This just means becomes. Okay, 3% becomes 3. And this only happened temporarily, okay? And step 2, we have what? 3 divided by 100 is equal to 0.03, which is also written as 0.03. The important 0 is this one, not this one out here, this one, the one on the inside, okay? So 3% is 0.03 or 0.03 as a decimal, okay? As a decimal. Are there any questions? Okay. Alright, so I'm going to give you a few more examples, then you're going to be working on problems on your own. Alright? So obviously, let's look at another we do. Okay? And I'm going to call this we do. I think this is number 4. I think I lost track. Number 4. And you're asked here to find 25% of 180. So this is easy stuff now. Find 25% of 180. Okay. Find 25% of 180. So first thing we do is we note that 25% equals the same as, what does percent mean? Means 25 out of 100. So 25% means, which becomes a division problem. 25 divided by 100 is equal to 0.25. In step 2, I take 0.25 and I multiply by 180, because of means that I'm multiplying. And when I do that, I get 45. Okay, so 25% of 180 is 45. Okay. Notice that these problems, you do not have to use the percent proportion. You don't have to use the percent proportion. You use that for more difficult problems. All right. Okay. Are there any questions? Okay, so we're actually going to move on to something else. We want to look at percents that's bigger than 100. Okay, percents that's bigger than 100. Look at percents in which the percent is bigger than 100. Alright, so now let me just ask a question quickly. If I ask you to find 120% of 75, should I expect a bigger number, or should I expect a smaller number, and why? Okay, so notice here that 120% is the same as 120 divided by 100. Percent is always out of 100, which is 120. Written like that, I can rewrite the 120 over 100 as 120 divided by 100. It's a division problem, and I get the answer is going to be 1.20, which your calculator gives you as 1.2. Same thing. Alright, so now you should know that 1.2 is bigger than 1. Isn't that so? So what would you expect the answer to be now? You should know immediately. When you multiply a number bigger than 1 by any other number, when you multiply a number bigger than 1 by any other number, that other number has to increase. The value of your solution, if the number is a positive number, is going to be bigger. Alright, because you're taking more than one of it. So step 2, if I take 1.2 and I multiply that by 75, I'm going to get 90. Okay? I'm going to get 90. So that means that 120% of 75 is equal to 90. Okay? In other words, I'm taking the whole of 90 and then an added 20% of it, whole of 75 rather, 100% of 75, all of it, plus an extra 20% would therefore give me more than 75, which is 90, okay? 120% of 75 equals 90. Okay, now we're going to look at a word problem, okay? We're going to look at a word problem. I think you should have written the learning objective by now, so I'm going to erase the whole board for this particular problem.